Now, today's a very special day, ladies and gentlemen, as AMD is taking the wraps off its brand new Strix Point processor based on the Zen 5 architecture. We can finally take a look at a laptop running this brand new chipset. It's the Asus Zenbook S16, and I gotta tell you, with its Ceraluminum design, the beautiful Scandinavian white color, it is simply stunning in terms of the looks. But looks can only get you so far. We asked a lot of the women out there, no pun intended, but yes, we want to see what's under the hood. Does it run cool and quiet? How's the battery life? How's the everyday performance? We're going to get into all of that and more in this review. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is the Asus Zenbook S16 running the brand new Ryzen AI9 365. Wow, that is a mouthful, and that is coming up.
Now, before we get to the unit itself, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by Asus, I'm not being sponsored by Asus. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Asus is not getting copy approval. That means they're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, this unit is on loan from Asus, and once this review is done, I'll be sending it back. Now, pricing for the Zenbook S16 comes in at $1399.99. You could pick it up over at Best Buy, and of course, I'll leave my affiliate link in the description below if you're interested in purchasing one or finding out more information. But as far as the price, I think it's pretty fair because you're getting a very high-end 3K OLED display. It's a touchscreen display that is not only a touch layer, but also has pen support. It's got the AMD Ryzen AI9 365 processor. That has 10 cores, and it also has 24 gigabytes of memory. We'll get into the performance later on. You also get a terabyte of storage, which is user upgradable. Comes in that beautiful Scandinavian white color, and it has that Ceraluminum design. It's pretty unique, and I think it gives off a nice vibe. You know the drill, folks. Let's get this out of the box. Okay, some pretty nice packaging. Let's take a look at this little box here, and this is where the power charger will be. Of course, this is going to be, let's see here, it usually says it right here, 65 watts. You could see it right there, and it's USB Type-C. And then this box, of course, houses the unit itself. And I love the fact that this lifts up to greet you. Really, really classy design, very high-end. And of course, this is going to be the Scandinavian white, and it has a little bit of heft to it, so we'll get a measurement of the weight. And then, of course, this is Ceraluminum, as you can see here. What they're saying here is high-tech ceramic called Ceraluminum. Features our exclusive high-tech ceramic, giving you the best of both worlds, lightness and hardness of the ceramic, along with the malleability of metal. And wow, she is a beauty here, and very thin. I mean, look at this. You can see here, look how thin that is on the right side, and then on the back of the unit there, really super thin. And there's your port selection over there. Again, very nice. We'll take a look at all that. But of course, let's do the useless test of the day. Yep, you can open it with one finger. And boy, she is beautiful. Now, the screen goes back as far as you see here. Not quite all the way, but you do get some pretty good viewing angles. And this also is a glossy display, as you'll notice, but pretty nice looking 16-inch laptop here. What we're seeing here as far as the keyboard, very nice. The Ceraluminum material is very premium. You got a grill over here. You got Asus branding there. Some swipe gestures you can do for raising volume. I think brightness as well. We'll take a look at all that. Let's give a listen to the keyboard. Beautiful craftsmanship here. Very impressive so far. Okay, with just the unit alone, you're looking at 1.517 kilograms, and that is 3 pounds, 5.5 ounces. And with the power charger, you're looking at 1.738 kilograms, and that is 3 pounds, 13.3 ounces all in. Not too bad for a 16-inch laptop to take with you on the go. Okay, let's check out the port selection. Let's start off on the left side. We get an HDMI 2.1 TMDS port, and next to that are two USB Type-C 4.0 ports that are full function, supporting data, charge, and display out. And it does work with my Thunderbolt drive, my Sabrent SSD drive that, of course, worked fine. 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack rounds out the left side. Moving over to the right side is a full-size SD card reader, and as you can see, the cards stick out about halfway, not quite flush, of course, with the unit, which would have been great, but I like having a full-size SD card reader nonetheless. And then you get a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A port to round out the ports on this unit, and I would say, all in all, a very good port selection here. Now, as we take a look at the internals here, you'll notice that 78 watt-hour battery. We'll get into the battery life later on in this review, and you'll notice the 2 fans for the cooling. We'll get into the thermal performance later on as well. But as far as what's user upgradable, there is an M.2 SSD. It's a 2280 size SSD, and as you can see from the reads and writes, certainly fast enough for what you need this laptop to do. Really good here in 2024. Unfortunately, the RAM is soldered into the motherboard, not upgradable by the user. Now, this is running the LPDDR5X RAM, 7,500 megatransfers per second, not quite as fast as we've been seeing out of those Snapdragon Copilot Plus PCs that were recently launched. And you're looking at a Wi-Fi 7 Bluetooth 5.4 combo card, and it's good to see that Wi-Fi 7, making it more future-proof. And as far as the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, both have been working flawlessly. No issues with either one. All right, let's talk about the display, and it's a good one here. They're calling it the Lumina OLED display. It's got a 3K resolution, it's 16 inches, and a resolution of 2880 by 1800. It has a 16:10 aspect ratio with a 0.2 millisecond response time and 120 hertz refresh rate. So it's got all the bells and whistles of an OLED display. The deep blacks, the super vibrant colors, the really high contrast, it's all there. It's got excellent coverage of the color gamut. It's also color accurate. So if you're going to do content creation in Lightroom, Photoshop, video editing in DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro, it is an excellent panel to do those tasks. Now, when it comes to screen brightness, I actually measured 412 nits in standard dynamic range, and it can peak as bright as 500 nits when consuming HDR or high dynamic range content. Now, speaking of which, this is a great media consumption device. Watching Netflix, Amazon, YouTube has been great on this. It also has a touch layer. Yes, you can use your finger to navigate the OS. Pinch to zoom is a really great feature to have, and it also has pen support. I was able to jot down a note here or there and was able to sketch out diagrams and artwork if you want to. It all works very well on this, although it is not a convertible. It is a nice convenience feature to have. I wouldn't take a lot of notes with it, but to jot down the note here and there is certainly convenient on this. Now, there are a couple of things to note here with an OLED display. Now, there's something called PWM or screen flickering. I detected it below 30% or so screen brightness. Some people are sensitive to that, so just I wanted to point that out. And the other thing to be aware of long term is something called screen burn-in, although Asus puts a lot of care into their OLED. In fact, they have a lot of settings within the My Asus app. In terms of that OLED care, there's a nice screensaver that comes on if it's being idle for a certain amount of time, so that will help preserve this OLED display. And I have not experienced any screen burn-in on any of these OLED displays employed by Asus over the last couple of years that I've been looking at them, so they do a really good job on it. And again, I am a big fan of the OLED displays because of the deep blacks, the super vibrant colors. Everything just seems to pop, and this one is no exception. They did a really great job here. So this is the camera on the brand new Asus Zenbook S16, the brand new laptop running the brand new processor, the Ryzen AI9 365. Yeah, they got to fix that naming, but it is a strict point here. It is Zen 5, 1080p camera. It's IR. What do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, let's talk about the keyboard, and it's got a white backlight chiclet style keyboard that I felt was very comfortable for typing out long documents, emails, and the like. The tactility, the key travel, the overall feedback were really good. It is a very good typing experience overall, so I'm very happy with these chiclet style keys. Now, as far as the backlight, it does have a multi-stage backlight. That's going to allow you to get work done in a dark room or a dimly lit environment. That worked well. Now, it has a very nice sized touchpad here. It's not a haptic touchpad, but it is a very responsive touchpad when it comes to scrolling and doing all the gestures. Everything just seemed to work very well. Now, the touchpad also has gestures on it that allows you to control the volume and the brightness of your display. So I like having those features here. You could turn it off or on in the settings of the My Asus app. Okay, let's talk about the processor, and we're going to get to performance in a moment, but I wanted to take time to show you the difference between the AI9HX370 processor, which has 12 cores, 24 threads, and up to 81 tops, versus the one we have here now, which is the AI9 365 processor, which is 10 cores, 20 threads, up to 73 tops total with the processor and graphics included here. 880M graphics versus 890M graphics, and they come in the different colors here. Zumaya gray for the higher end model and the Scandinavian white as we have here. Now, let's take a look at the Geekbench 6, and this will test the single and multi-core performance. We're looking at 2786 single core, 13,070 in multi-core, and when we compare it to the Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge running the brand new Snapdragon X Elite, not quite as good in both single and multi-core. And better graphics, though, I am seeing on the Radeon 880M versus the Adreno graphics in the Samsung. Now, when we look at Cinebench 2024, very similar results here. Not quite as good single and multi-core performance, but very good nonetheless. Again, we're going to see a little bit of an edge on that Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge. And keep in mind, I don't have the Ryzen AI 9HX 370, which is 12 cores. I have the one, which is the 365, which has 10 cores. So that's the difference there, 12 cores versus 10. And when I ran the 3D Mark series of tests here, the Time Spy, Firestrike, and Wildlife Extreme, the Samsung actually did better in the Wildlife Extreme. It was running natively, of course, on that Windows on ARM Snapdragon X Elite, but everything else had to run in emulation. And as you can see, the Asus did better in the Time Spy and the Firestrike score. So we're seeing an advantage there because it doesn't have to emulate. That's one of the advantages of going with an x86-based processor. Now, when we look at the Geekbench 6 versus the MacBook Air, look at this single core performance, pretty good here, but again, not quite as good as that excellent single core performance on the MacBook Air, but we're seeing better multi-core on the AMD Ryzen AI9. Now, when we look at the Cinebench 2024, again, similar result here, 141 single core MacBook Air versus the 111 on the Asus Zenbook, and as you can see, better multi-core on the Asus 787 versus 612. So you can see the dichotomy there. And having very good single and multi-core performance means doing everyday tasks such as Microsoft Office, email, web browsing has been very good. Consuming media has been excellent. There were no hiccups. There were no slowdowns. Nothing of the sort. In fact, it ran very quick and very snappy. And as far as any compatibility issues, you won't have that like you get with the Snapdragon X series because of the compatibility issues with x86 apps that you'd get with Windows on ARM. You don't have that here. Everything just runs as you would expect. And when I ran the Puget Bench DaVinci Resolve benchmark to see how video editing would be on this new Ryzen AI9 processor with the Radeon 880M graphics, you're going to see here a very good score here. Overall, 743 versus the 670 I got on the Meteor Lake, the Intel Core Ultra 9 185H on that Zenbook 14 OLED that I looked at with the Intel Arc graphics. So we're seeing better overall score with this Radeon 880M graphics found in that Ryzen AI. So pretty good overall for video editing. Now, interestingly enough, when I looked at the prior generation, the Ryzen 7 8840HS that I looked at on that HP NVX 360, we're seeing another improvement here, 743 versus 600. So overall, an improvement in terms of the integrated graphic solution here with this Ryzen AI9 for 2024. And for those wondering, here's the performance difference when on battery versus when plugged in. Not a huge difference, but a difference nonetheless. Now, I'm going to get into the gaming in a separate video, but I would say it's very similar to what you'd get in the Intel Arc graphics as far as any type of gaming. I wouldn't characterize this as a gaming laptop per se, but if you lower some of the settings, you can get some playable frame rates on some of the more popular titles. I'll get more into that very soon. And when I ran the Time Spy stress test to see if this will thermal throttle under heavy load, we have good news here, getting a passing score of 99.2%, meaning it detected virtually no thermal throttling under heavy load. And that's a good thing. And as far as that surface temperatures, when put under heavy load, didn't get overly hot here. Now, of course, where the vent is below the display above the keyboard, you might get a little bit of warm areas there, but where you place your fingers on the keyboard, never getting overly hot. And on the bottom here, as you can see, never getting overly hot. So this can be used on your lap without any issues. So it stayed relatively cool throughout in terms of the surface temperatures. And when you place it under maximum load, it can reach as high as 44, maybe 45 decibels, which is noticeable. Not overly loud to the point where it's quite distracting, but you definitely will notice that fan noise under load. But when you're doing everyday tasks, when you're in the whisper mode in the My Asus app, you're not going to notice the fans all that much. That is an advantage, I think, that the Snapdragon X Elite processor brings to the table over something like this. But again, the fan noise could have been a lot worse, and it's certainly better than the Meteor Lake laptops we've been seeing here in 2024 from Intel. And by now you're probably asking yourself, well, how's the battery life? And I can tell you it's pretty good here. So we're looking at pretty good battery life when it comes to things like the PC Mark X Modern Office test, which emulates a everyday working type of scenario. 11 hours, 52 minutes, which is pretty good. I was able to run the PC Mark X MS Office test that did 11 hours and 33 minutes. The video playback got 15 hours, 37 minutes. And even the gaming saw pretty good results here, which usually drains the battery quickly, obviously. But this did actually 1 hour and 37 minutes overall. Now, I did set the brightness to 40% in the balance mode on the first 3 tests, and the last I did full blast pretty much on everything. So keep that in mind. Now, video playback test here versus the MacBook Air shows the MacBook Air is still king here as far as when you compare it to something like this, 18 hours, 33 minutes versus that 15 hours, 37 minutes. But keep in mind, I did run the Zenbook S at 120 hertz, and of course, the MacBook Air is limited to 60 hertz. If you lower the Zenbook down to 60 hertz, expect a couple of hours, maybe more in terms of battery life. But of course, everybody's use case is a little bit different, so your mileage may vary. And when I put it up against the brand new Surface Laptop 7 running the Snapdragon X Elite, you know that one got 22 hours and 21 minutes, which was pretty amazing in terms of endurance. Here we got 15 hours and 37 minutes running that same exact test, both running at 120 hertz. But keep in mind, this had actually a bigger battery, 78 watt hours versus the 66 watt hours on that Surface Laptop 7. So pretty impressive battery life nonetheless, but not quite as good as the Snapdragon X series of processors, especially on that Surface Laptop 7, or even something like the Dell XPS 13 9345, which got about 25 plus hours, which was pretty amazing. But the overall takeaway here is very good endurance here on this AMD Ryzen AI-based laptop. You're going to get all the compatibility you need. You're not going to have any of the issues you're going to get on the Snapdragon. You're going to get some pretty good endurance to boot on top of that. Now, we're looking at quad speakers on this unit. It has Harman Kardon tuned speakers that have Dolby Atmos. That's going to help with the spatial audio. I think the overall sound, volume, and the overall mids are very good on this. There's some bass. I think the overall sound is very good, but I want you to be the judge. You let me know what you think in the comment section below. We'll compare it to the MacBook Air 15 that I looked at, of course, and that has some pretty good speakers in its own right. So again, let me know what you think. Now, let's give them a listen. Okay, let's bring it all home. What do I think about the Asus Zenbook S16 running that brand new processor, the Ryzen AI9 365? And I gotta say, it's got a pretty stunning design here. I like the Ceraluminum, that hybrid between ceramic and aluminum. It's durable, it's light. I like the 3K 120 hertz OLED touch display with pen support. That's worked out great. It's been pretty gorgeous. Good single and multi-core performance out of this chipset. Good integrated graphics with the Radeon 880M. Excellent keyboard and touchpad, very comfortable to use, very good 1080p webcam for your video conferencing needs. And I like the good price here for what you're getting, good price to performance ratio, good port selection in terms of the I/O. It runs cool and quiet for pretty much everyday tasks, and it has very good battery life in terms of endurance. But of course, it's not a perfect laptop. The RAM is not upgradable, soldered into the motherboard, but that's like most laptops here in 2024, so it's not a big surprise. No haptic touchpad here. That would have been great. That would have been rivaling that of a Surface Laptop 7 or even, of course, the MacBook Air, but the touchpad is very good in terms of responsiveness. The display is a little bit on the glossy side, but not overly glossy, as I said, and not really much of a distraction, but it is glossy. I just wanted to point that out. The fan noise under heavy load is noticeable, getting about 45, 46 decibels, but that's really when you're pushing it 100% CPU and all that stuff, so just bear that in mind. And the Snapdragon X Elite, which was just launched, has better single and multi-core performance, but this doesn't have nearly the compatibility issues that faces, at least for now. So you're going to be able to use all your apps without any issues and have more stable performance when it comes to the graphics when compared to the Snapdragon X series of laptops. But this is a really good start here for the Zen 5 laptops, and I think Asus put together a really nice looking laptop with a gorgeous display, great materials used, and a great vibe that it gives off. You get good battery life, very good performance, and overall a great choice.
So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and X, the platform formerly known as Twitter. And don't forget to check out my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video.